2 big choruses out of He Lives, and then we'll just keep playing all the way through. Follow. Yeah. 3, 4.
but it is a little bit overly harsh. In the real room, one of the ways we would add space is we would just pull this DCA down and leave the vocals up and increase reverb. And that's gonna make it feel a little bit more atmospheric instead of like all in your face. One of the things that we love in metal that we don't love here is in metal, there's almost a layering technique that's like its own kind of compression. You have like, you know, 4 guitars are all doubling and you layer them on top of each other.
It's so distorted, everybody's just a wall of sound.
And so you wind up with that wall. Here, we don't want that wall. We want there to be room. So now that we've built a foundation for the song, to make that space, I would pick things to be the focus at different times. So I would blend the keys, run here, and then for no reason really, but like when it feels like the guitar is gonna take over, I would stuff about this too is that we can't talk about blending in these to use space.
No vocals.
But we have a verb, a short delay that's like a slapback, and a long delay. So the short delay isn't in here because it's for the live stream, although if you like it, you can put it in the house, but it's not something that we would be like changing the effects in here in, because it's something they built for the live stream. Okay. To add that, you're in the room, the sound slaps back on the wall kind of thing. But the long delay is something that I use all the time, and then vocal verb obviously is going to...
So these three are just on the vocals?
Yes.
Okay. So even though it's...
Yeah, there is an aux verb that is on your instruments, but most of the guys don't use it. I use it on my toms and occasionally on my snare if they're doing something that feels kind of 80s. Then, you want that like gated...
Yeah.
But...
Do you specifically go to a different chord before the chorus? Can you drop this in? Hey man, can you put on the bass track on Follow You Anyway? Because Joe, I think you're probably right, but I just want to check.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is that we're also going to keep an eye up here on what sound in the room is. It's not that there's a particular wrong one. I've peaked at 108 before. It's that we want to make sure it's dynamic. So you want to make sure that you're bottoming out somewhere in the 90, 95 range, and that you're peaking at whatever high energy feels.
So when they go into like the pre-chorus or something, it's a little lower, and then the chorus punches in.
It could be, or it could just be that song 2 has that acoustic guitar lead, so we're gonna literally pull the PA down by 5 just so it feels more intimate and whatever. But it's delivering a dynamic experience is one of Nathan's big deals about like what sounds like Mosaic. He doesn't care how loud it gets as long as it's musical, but he does care that we have change as opposed to like a constant saturation of sound.
Okay.
So that's something that is interesting to consider as well. I can literally do it with the PA sometimes. Like I won't even change the mix. I'll just drop them down by 5 and put them back up 5 more. Sometimes you do it in the mix. Like sometimes it's which instruments do you give prominence in that triangle of focus. Okay. Sometimes I'll take the bass and the drums and I'll put them down like this, and I'll let the keys be at the top with maybe an acoustic, and then rhythm electric, and then lead electric is the thing that fills in the space.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Unfortunately, just because of how long it will take, the best way to learn mixing is to just mix a lot. And mixing in the room is so different from mixing in the box, mixing with stems, because you're going to have actual feedback and things like that to deal with. And then mixing in the room with vocals is a whole different animal than mixing without vocals. Yep. So I think it will take a while for us to get to the point where we can build those instincts in. Mm-hmm. But the head knowledge is how you get the instincts, you know what I mean? Yep. And so even if, like I know you talked about, maybe we're not going to do a ton of things, as long as you can get those fundamentals, then it's just like show up to every rehearsal and do it, you know what I mean?
That's the plan so far. I just need to get familiar with the console. That's
Absolutely.
Step 1.
And they've got, I think they have like a worship type thing on Tuesdays.
Yep. That's where Nathan
wants
to.
Tuesday nights, but you certainly can, and it'll be another great time to practice. And if Nathan's there, he might be able to give you
Nathan wants to get me in on Tuesdays. Yeah. So that's the plan for now.
Yeah. One of the other things that can be tricky, and tonight is not going to matter because we saved him a scene already, but everybody has their own way that they like the EQs to be, but then all of those have to get filtered through how does Mosaic sound. So when you want to make one of those big fundamental like changes, that's something that we kind of have to work with Nathan on to make sure that it's going to fit into his vision for like what does a service sound like, because we don't want anyone to be like taking the focus away to where some days people are like, oh, it sounds worse than last week, or it sounds better than last week. So even if you or I have to mix worse than we normally would, like subjectively, we might not like the sound as much. If it's consistent, that helps us get out of the way so that people who are here can experience the service instead of experiencing the mix.
That's what I have to learn.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Letting bass and keys drive most of the time is one of the things that I have found to be helpful in like what is the Mosaic sound.
So you're pulling guitars back a lot of the time?
Yeah,
like,
or
not a
I'm
lot.
treating
but-
guitars like more vocalists, where it's like when there's maybe not rhythm, but especially like the lead, I'm not really giving the lead any place in the mix unless there's no vocals singing, because I don't want them to take over each other. So and that's where I get really dynamic, I would say, on Sundays, is between the different guitar lines, and sometimes adding in the keys to that too, but like letting the guitars fade away and then bringing them back into adding, because that's a way that we can add punch to a mix without adding volume. It's just switching, you know, when you pull the keys a little bit. There's a great example. So like right now, let me build this for you really quick, the way I would do it on a Sunday. Yes, I know. So here, I'm letting keys lead even though they're not really doing any movement. And then when we're in between stuff like this, he didn't play the riff. In the song, there's a riff there. And then here, to switch energy, you let these two take up here. So this is the same volume, 95, but the energy's different. And then in the chorus, add the punch of the drums and bass. And so now all of that felt very dynamic, still 95 dB, right? So those are the kind of changes that are more in line with how Nathan wants it to feel, in terms of like we want it to feel musical, like it's changing and it's dynamic. And then same thing here where building to this chorus, when we get to the end, I'm gonna put it all back. And then I'm gonna let the rhythm electric stick in there just to give us some pacing. And then I might leave more of the bass in there just to glue it all together. And actually, we were gonna talk about Submariner, we'll do that next, because I think you could use it on this song. Feel the difference?
Yeah. I like the really low stuff.
Yeah.
I play 5 strings.